President.
Senator from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are we in a quorum call?
We are not.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise today to discuss the so-called Genius Act, which we're going to vote on in a few minutes here in this chamber. It's a bill that I think could have gotten to a place where it made sense, but I'm not going to be supporting the legislation because, among other things, we haven't had a real debate on it, and we have had no opportunity to offer amendments to make the bill better. And it is still falling short in some really fundamental ways that I'm really worried about. I'm really worried about the risk to money laundering that I don't think is well addressed in this bill. I'm really worried about the regulatory structure, which looks absolutely nothing like the structure that is required for our banks and for foreign banks that want to do business here in the United States. I think we may come to rue the day that we didn't put the guardrails in place to protect the American people from what could be a catastrophic effect on our economy, because we had the failure to have the foresight to see the potential risks that we could face. For example, just one example, Mr. President, we commonly require financial institutions like banks to have a subsidiary here in the United States that is regulated by the laws of the United States before they're able to offer banking services to my constituents in Colorado and to all the 330 million Americans that we have. There's nothing like that in this bill. There's nothing like that in this bill. If some administration official deems a foreign jurisdiction is somehow good enough, without it actually being good enough, without it having the benefits of the best regulatory environment in the world, which is ours, then people can do business here issuing crypto, in this case stable coins. I think that's a big mistake. As a member of the Intelligence Committee, I think it's a huge mistake that we didn't take on the issues of money laundering that cryptocurrency are presenting and the challenges that it's causing to law enforcement. I think that's a big problem. It's not that we couldn't have fixed it, but we chose not to fix it. And as I mentioned earlier, there has not been an effort to make the bill better. There's been no amendment process. Mr. President, I had an amendment in this bill for one brief shining moment. I came down the floor and offered an amendment, and it actually was accepted. It's been decades around this place, I think, since that's happened. And all that amendment said was, it said the President and the Vice President and the members of Congress should not issue crypto. In this case, stable coins. I would be surprised to learn that 90% of the American people think the President or the Vice President or the members of Congress should issue their own crypto coins while they're in office. That would be shocking to learn. And the American people clearly would like a legal regime here that prevents their elected officials, including the people in this body, including in the House of Representatives, including and most particularly in the White House, should not enrich themselves while they're in office. That was my very simple amendment. That was referred to as the Bennet Amendment. I'm proud of that fact. This is not even hard. There is no reason the president, any president, should be issuing crypto while they're in office, or a vice president. There's no reason any person on this floor should do it, or anybody in the House of Representatives should do it. And now in a partially regulated regime where we're not dealing with that question, we're sending a signal to the American people that this digital currency has the seal of approval of the entire United States government. of our regulators. And that's potentially very dangerous to the financial institutions that may participate in this and to the American people themselves. I have nothing fundamentally against crypto. I have nothing fundamentally against stablecoins. But I think it's fundamentally wrong that elected officials should be able to enrich themselves in this new digital environment. And I think, I'll say maybe it's not 98%, but I'll bet you 9 out of 10 Americans agree with me. And I'll say, Mr. President, that this is just one more indication of the U.S. Senate not doing the people's business, of not living up to the expectations of the folks that designed this chamber to begin with. This bill is going to pass with votes from the Democratic Party, even though there was not a single amendment voted on as part of this bill. I object to that as a Democrat. I can't stop it because there's 60 votes for this legislation. But I think we would have been a lot better off on this bill, just like with almost any bill that comes before the Senate, to have an open amendment process. I would have loved to have had the opportunity to see people vote on a bill that banned members of the Senate and from the House and the President and the Vice President from issuing their own cryptocurrency. I would have liked to have had a debate that said, is it a good idea to have foreign governments or foreign investors speculating publicly in the cryptocurrency that a president has issued? Is it a good idea to have foreign entities making $2 billion investments in currency that is issued by American politicians? That is crazy. And we could have fixed that in this legislation. And not only did we not fix it, we didn't even have a debate about it. We didn't even have a single amendment come to the floor. We were in such a hurry to do the bidding of the proponents of this legislation. Mr. President, I would urge all my colleagues to vote no on this procedural motion, to go back to the drawing board to have a proper negotiation, to write a piece of legislation that actually would provide the seal of approval in a meaningful way to American investors and to American consumers. And when it comes to the issuing of cryptocurrency and stablecoins, that we would have heeded the common sense of the American people, who would have said, do not ratify the corruption that's going on in our capital. I don't think that's too much for the American people to ask for, Mr. President. And I hope my colleagues will reconsider their position and we'll have the chance to have a proper debate and a proper negotiation on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.